The West African region and the Sahel Band have the highest population growth rates in the world, with figures varying between 5.3% and 7.6% per country. The rapid population growth, the fertility and the very high dependency rates of young people in this part of the continent considerably limit the efforts of the states for sustainable improvement of the living conditions of the populations. Millions of people, mostly women and young people, are at risk of starvation, forced migration, religious radicalization, and above all, devastating practices for their health. In order to reverse the trend, a regional conference on culture, communication, and demographic dividend was recently held in Conakry, an initiative of the UNFPA, the United Nations Population Fund, in relation with the Guinean government. This meeting, an essential component of the UNFPA's regional communication campaign for social and behavioral change, aims to highlight the commitment and role of traditional communicators, religious leaders, community leaders, customary chiefs for the acceleration of the demographic transition in the countries of the sub-region and the Sahel.
C'est pour faire appel.
It is to appeal and use wisely this natural gift of the verb and this art of convincing that the Regional Office of the United Nations Fund for the Population, working closely with country offices and the government of Guinea, has decided to support the organization of this conference and bring together the experts of verb, culture, tradition, and public speaking to reflect on their possibilities of contribution to the emergence of an Africa where women will cease to die while giving birth,
Où les femmes cesseront de mourir en donnant la vie,
where girls will no longer endure any forms of violence, where the potential of young people will be fully realized, and reproductive health, including family planning, accessible to all.
sera accessible à tous.
A traditional communicator is one that captures the aspiration of communities and informs leaders in courtesy and respect. Its role is to inform and educate the population about all matters affecting the area they live in. Therefore, we are ready to support the United Nations Population Fund so that the demographic dividend is maintained and the sub-region becomes the leader of other countries.
True masters of the world and living memory of heritage in African societies, these men and women from Benin, Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Guinea, Mali, Niger, Senegal, and Chad constitute an important relay in the transmission of messages and the dissemination of information of any kind. Therefore, their massive presence at this conference suggests a real consideration of issues related to demographic transition and reproductive health.
We committed ourselves and we told ourselves that never again will we see a mother give birth and die. We also must not have children dying at birth. We must make every effort to ensure that socio-cultural barriers that are unfavorable to health promotion will no longer exist. We are promoting women's empowerment, youth empowerment, by putting into practice all these mechanisms that should lead us to capture the demographic dividend. Our network is composed of Nyamankala. They are griots recognized by the whole Malian society. We have enough experience in conflict resolution at the family level and even in political parties. Among us, there are several ethnic groups that represent the whole Malian community. And as president of the network myself, I'm involved in the search for solutions that concern the community. We are committed to contributing in all areas that affect Malian society, such as child marriage, maternal and child health excision, the fight against AIDS, gender-based violence, and access to family planning. Together, we find solutions for the good of the community.
In the Sahel region, cultural burdens combined with lack of information in communities result in low rates of modern contraception, which translates into high fertility. Hence, the need to take care of all the social and cultural parameters that constitute an obstacle to the empowerment of women and the preservation of their well-being.
Indeed, there are difficulties. As you know, in Africa, our customs and cultures hinder these activities and some religious conceptions too. But we, as religious leaders, we have invested ourselves to pave a path and reach a certain level, and more precisely in Chad through the Council for Islamic Affairs to try to organize an interreligious platform. So we conduct our activities around this platform as well as all the religious leaders of Chad who have also joined in.
The
capture of the demographic dividend is a new concept for some, and it should be harmonized on the message. It means that we must have a uniform message in all languages to be able to communicate and to understand. At the moment, it is the concern of governments, the issue of reproductive health, the problem of family planning. When we talk about the demographic dividend, we are talking about the drastic decline in what is called procreation. We should see it down to reach a certain level. Then there is the human capital, because we must have a human capital capable of carrying the whole concept, and it will be supported by the socioeconomic reforms of the governments, in addition to good governance that will allow everyone to benefit.
The Regional Strategy for Communication for Social and Behavioral Change 2017-2019 gives priority to young girls and women, but also to the influence targets that are among other traditional and community leaders. It is a question of paying particular attention to the habits and customs of the communities in order to mobilize their potential of social transformation for the success of the objectives of sustainable development.
Vous devez objectivement faire comprendre à la population qu'est-ce qui est positif.
You must objectively make the population understand what is positive, because everything in our culture is moving us forward. Anything that does not move us forward is negative, even when it is practiced. We need our traditional leaders to show the people why one thing is good and why another is bad. Then there is the role of education. You've mentioned 0% here and there. So since our people do not have 70% in English or French, this rate can be caught up with the national languages. The fact that Africa is investing in its youth is a chance for Africa itself, provided of course that we master the energy and industrialization of Africa to give these young people jobs. Otherwise, it becomes problematic. But we must not confuse what is due to a technical delay of development with concrete reality.
Some social-cultural realities underway in the Sahel region, such as child marriage, do not advocate for maximizing the potential of women and girls to become development actors. Indeed, more than 50% of women aged 25 to 29 have been married for the first time before the age of 18. And in some countries, such as Niger and Chad, these rates are around 70%. Thus, all the actions and initiatives implemented in different countries put education and culture at the center of the strategies.
Today, with the Cultural Renaissance, that is a program stemming from the vision of our President of the Republic, Issouf Mamadou, we envisage to organize them, to supervise them, to involve them directly in the implementation of our program of sensitization, because the Cultural Renaissance, which is the dynamic of awareness of the population, must implement a whole range of actions, a whole range of strategies, so that awareness, communication, information can be the main tools to reach the population, the main tools for changing behaviors. The traditional communicators, we call them community message carriers. They are our partners. They are strategic actors on which we will rely.
Conceived as one of the main levers of the realization of the vision of the African Union contained in Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, the demographic dividend can also serve as a framework for coherence of policies and investments to achieve inclusive growth and sustainable development goals. And to achieve this, the UNFPA intends to rely on all the forces of the continent in this long-term process.
Une chose qui est intéressante, c'est qu'aujourd'hui nous avons des outils.
One thing that is interesting is that today we have tools, we have the knowledge, and we even have a little conviction. What we missed, and we are working on it, is the method. It is for this method that we have not been limited to one part of society. We are not limited to a particular method that deals with one aspect. We have deployed a number of tools. We have made a number of commitments. We have established trust relationships with a multitude of actors. And I believe that it is this combination, used, deployed with method and persistence, that will help solve the problems facing the continent. So it is not about simple questions. It is a dossier that will take time. But personally, I'm satisfied with what we have already done, and today I'm more than confident that we are moving in the right direction.
Conakry is no doubt a decisive step towards accelerating the demographic transition in sub-Saharan Africa, highlighting the crucial role that traditional communicators, religious and community leaders can play in terms of social mobilization, awareness and advocacy. Harnessing the demographic dividend requires the taking into account of customs and religious and cultural beliefs.